How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Diamond Map channel. Today I'm really pushed for time, like really more than usual, so I'm going to make it a quick one. It's a quick video and I'll try not to waffle on too much, so let's get on with it. Okay, today we are just going to extend this chain or give an option for wearing it at different lengths, not extend it. So there'll be a ring on the end and then we're going to add a ring a bit further down in the chain. There's common lengths in the UK anyway. You have 16 inch and 18 inch, so that's like 40 something centimeters, and I think 18 was 46 centimeters, can't remember. But anyway, yeah, so we'll just have one on the end and I'll put one about there. I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so I had the idea to do this video a while ago, but I was waiting until I had an 18 karat chain I actually needed to do it to. I don't want to buy an 18 karat chain just for a video because I ain't got enough money to do that kind of thing, not yet. So anyway, I've got the silver one. I didn't really want to do it on silver because silver chains, as all chains like 18 karat like white or anything, they're 18 karat gold, but they're rhodium plated as well. This is definitely silver plated silver chain. Problem is, when you solder on it, you burn off that plating, so your little patch, like worst case scenario, you get a little black burnt scorch mark which you can't polish off because it's like burnt plating. This, hopefully, it will just go kind of chalky white after it's been in the acid, and then I can polish it to kind of match kind of, but it won't. It's possible there may be a little section about a centimetre long that might not look quite as nice as the rest of the chain, but anyway, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. I think it might be alright. Let's have a go. Okay, to do this, I need two little jump rings. I've got these ends on here. Maybe I'll use the same end. Okay, maybe I'll use the same end because working on jewellery, if you're doing repairs and stuff, you're going to come across these, so I'll show you how I work with these as well. Again, silver's a bit annoying because it's so soft, but I'll battle on and show you how to work with them. So I just need to make one jump ring then that's going to sit there. When I'm making just one or two, I won't bother getting a like rod of metal or something to wrap the wire around and then cut them out. If you're interested in how I make jump rings, I did a video specifically on that in the past. I'll put a card up on the screen now, so you should be able to get a link to that video if you're interested. Yeah, I just use these pliers, got that half snipe, half flat section, and it is quite easy to get two jump rings the same. Excuse me. You get these kind of public announcements, yeah, in Japan, and I can't understand what they're saying, and it's a little bit worrying because that could be like some severe warning, like tidal wave on its way, like earthquake imminent, and I'm just going to sit here like, shut up. Don't know what you're saying. Thank you. Yeah, you just hold the wire the same distance down, and then you end up with a jump ring the same. So anyway, I just need one, so about that big. It's got to be kind of big enough. Think about people holding it with their fingers. They've got to be able to feel it, because remember, people are doing it, especially fine chains, usually women with long nails. They've got to be able to do it behind their neck, so quite a fiddly job to do. It takes a bit of practice, especially these catches. They're not easy to use for a lot of people. So make it decent-ish kind of size. My one, if you're interested, is, I didn't measure it yet, I just did it by what I thought looked right. It's, yeah, just under 5mm, the outer circumference. And it suits the bolt ring as well. Also consider the catch, it doesn't look odd in there. Not way bigger than the chain. You can feel that quite easily in your fingers, so that's a kind of good size. And also the gauge of the metal as well. Don't go too thick, because then it just looks a bit chunky and odd in the chain, in a fine chain. And then too thin as well, could stretch. Although when you buy these chains, some of the rings you get on the end are so thin and so small that they really, it's like, I'd rather they just charge more and then just put a decent sized ring on there, but they're trying to cut cost, I imagine. I've got my jump ring here and I'm going to close it up. When you're making jump rings, close them up really accurately. Really tight, lined up beautifully. Squash it slightly out of shape if you have to get it lining up nicely. You can always punch it out a bit around after. But yeah, there's no excuse for messy jump rings. I think people just rush this job, but it is actually difficult to do it well, so take your time. Use your loop if you have to. Do a good job. You know, 18 karat chains, yeah, they're quite expensive. So, and they're going on expensive pieces of, like expensive pendants and stuff are going on them. So the jump rings have got to be good. You can't have a crappily messy soldered jump ring. It looks terrible on like a, say, £2,000 pendant. There's no excuse. Just do it properly. Closed up my jump ring with something maybe slightly heavier gauge, and in gold, you can get away with holding it very gently in tweezers like that. And that's quite nice because that squeezes it closed slightly, so the join will be really tight and nice. Silver, just no way that's possible, especially something this thin. As soon as I get that hot, it's just going to squash, so I'm kind of forced to hold it like that, which is not really a big deal with this job. So yeah, I'm just going to have it like that. My trusty old slot in my peg. There you go, holding it very kindly for me for soldering, right there. How convenient. Normally soldering up a jump ring, I would say use a tiny bit of solder, and at this moment even a little bit big piece of solder is okay, because hopefully we can reflood it and then use it to flood onto the chain. So think about that, I might add a little bit more. That was nothing. So yeah, that solder will just flood onto the chain. That makes it easier for us. We haven't got to add solder to where we just hold the chain in position and then get that to flood onto the chain, which is what I'm nervous about working this being silver. In gold I'm good at it, but I haven't done it in silver before like this. Just making my excuses in advance. There we go. Skillful or what? Here's a little thing to consider. You don't want your end ring or loop or whatever's on there sitting flat, and then this being in a position on the chain where it's vertical. You want them both sitting flat at the same time. So hold that, put a bit of tension. I hold that down flat against the ground, give that a bit of tension. I mean, it's really poorly soldered in the end. This chain's making me look bad. It's got a bit of a twist on it anyway. So hang on. This is the... No. This way. There we go. So, now that chain's sitting flat. I can see those two links. So that one right in the middle where that jump ring is. Take my side cutters and just snip it out. There you go. That's where it goes. Right, I'm going in depth with how I do this, because there's no good me just saying, oh, just solder the jump ring on that, solder the jump ring on that. There's ways I do things that have been tried and tested over years. Like I've done like hundreds of like pendants using fine chains and adding little rings and settings and stuff in them. I've developed a way to handle chains. Obviously a short bit of chain is easier to work with than a long bit of chain. I recommend, I mentioned these tweezers in a comment to someone on one of my recent videos. I like watchmakers tweezers. They're quite sharp and they're very good for working in small fine chains. So very easily grab the end of that. Have a look at the link if you've got this kind of, this is a diamond cut curb chain. I like these. They're very strong and they sparkle in the light. Right, so have a look at the link. They are machine made, so they're just turned up and then probably sort of spot welded, laser welded or something to join them up. And that little weld is quite visible. Yeah, it's this end. So that's the end I'm going to use again. So hold it. I hope this is clear on the camera. Right, so I'm holding it right on the tip with my sharp tweezers over that join. And then I usually choose these pliers, something a little bit flat. Pinch the other end. So now I'm holding it from the turned up end, and that soldered piece is just there. You can either, I went for a stage of using my paper disc, I went for a stage using my rubber wheels, and now I've gone back to just using needle file. So I just hold it very gently, I just very lightly put a flat on it. I'm putting hardly any weight on it, that's why it looks like I'm probably doing a lot more filing than I really am. So there's a little flat section now across the solder join of that link. Again, with my tweezers, hold that. Then, with another pair of sharp tweezers, you need 2 pairs, and pinching it from the link behind, like so. There's just holding it so the width of my tweezers just clamps in nicely in between the first and the third. Yeah, so just the entirety of the second one is clamped shut, and then that holds it. That's nice and stiff in there. I can move it about, but it's holding it in position. Then with your toggle, all mine have disappeared. Literally 3 that I have made have vanished. There's one. Just gently put my toggle on there, so that's holding that link nice and strongly in a good position for either touching onto something and soldering it or adding more solder. We've already got the solder on the jump ring ready to go, so let's use that. So with your sharp tweezers again, hold your jump ring with the solder right above it, right on top. This can now go in there. Like, have a think about which slot is better. Like, I should cut a slot that side as well. Yeah, I think this angle's a bit better. I've mentioned this in a previous video as well. Have a little trial, like making sure you can comfortably touch it on there in position, because you're going to have one hand controlling your flame. So you want to be able to make sure you can like rest your wrist on the peg or something to hold it steady, and then make sure you can hold that in position while you solder it. So just have a little trial go, make sure everything's comfortable for you, and then really you should be ready to light your flame and get it soldered. Flux it again, make sure that's going to run. Touch a little bit of flux on your link you're about to solder as well. Can you see that? See if I can get my hand out of the way while I solder it. So yeah, I want the solder on the jump ring to flood as I'm touching on there. There you go, done. Et voila. Make sure you get it in the middle, nice and straight. So have a look before you continue. Make sure it's sort of in the middle. Make sure it's kind of straight. You can see mine's just off center. You can adjust it if you need to. Just hold it exactly the same. If you are pulling that jump ring off, you can't pull the back of the chain. You've got to hold that actual link and then pull it. Otherwise, there's a risk of you just getting it hot and then breaking the chain further along, which is a big problem when you're making a chain piece that's got a setting every certain amount of links along. If you start breaking a chain in the middle, you've then got to replace those links to make it all match up again. And yeah, that has happened to me in the past. So yeah, check it straight, look at it from the side, bend it up. You can bend it a little bit, but if it's way off or if it's tilted, you might have to pull it off and solder it back on. But yeah, maybe check with your 10 times loop as well. Check the actual join, it's got to be strong. Make sure it's soldered nicely. Right, this method, these techniques, I wasn't taught these. This has just come from experience working on expensive jewellery under pressure to do things very neatly and quickly as well, because when people come to collect their jewellery, sometimes they want the chain a bit longer or shorter. They're always in a rush. No one's ever got time when they're collecting their jewellery. I don't know why customers can't come to a shop when they've got like all afternoon free. They're always like on their way to an airport or something. So you get literally 10-15 minutes to do this kind of job. So it's nice to have a real specific technique and method like nailed. So you just know you need your 2 pairs of tweezers, your thin saw blades for cutting through the jump ring, yeah, your pliers for turning that ring up. Yeah, just everything's all set up and you know exactly what you've got to do and how to do it, and then you can just work really quickly. So for the other side, I'll show you a slightly different way of doing it. We'll put the solder on the link and then add it to the ring, because we don't have the join in the ring anymore to work with. So yeah, I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so pick your chain up on the end, make sure you've got the soldered bit in your tweezers there. Get your pliers. You might want to try some different pliers. I find these are easiest to grab it and hold it still. Otherwise I would use these. Got a slight flat on the end. A needle file. Make sure you're filing it nice and flat, not too much of any angles going on. Okay, have a look, nice and flat. That's where your solder is going to flood across. Pinching it there. Where have my other tweezers gone? Here they are. Holding it across the second one, so that's sticking up. Try and move it. Make sure there's a bit of rigidity to its position. Big toggle on tweezers. There you go, ready for soldering. This is just what I do. You could put that in there, but then your link is kind of sticking out to the side. I like it vertical because the little piece of solder you put on it is just more likely to sit where you put it. You're not relying on the stickiness of the flux to hold it in position. So then you can put your tweezers on there, and if that's a little bit insecure because they can fall over, which is true, I use these spring tweezers and I just pinch the back. Oops, just pinch the back, so that's holding out nice and sturdy now. Are you seeing that? Yeah. So they were like that. They do hold there, but just for a bit of support, I'll put those on. Wallop, ready for soldering. Right there. I can move that around anywhere I want it to. It's a kind of similar situation as doing the jump ring. If you were just soldering that link on, like say you had to add a section of chain, just use the tiniest little bit of solder. You can get away with using a little bit more than you would recommend someone if they were repairing the chain, because we want that solder join to be nice and strong against that jump ring. So I use a little bit more than you might think for just a tiny ring, but the idea is that solder then floods and makes a nice strong join against the jump ring. Fine chains, silver chains with this blowtorch are not good. There you go, just flooded. The way, you probably didn't see that, but I flooded it so obviously the solder didn't just go flat and go all over the link. It just sort of melted into a little ball, and then I took the heat off. So that's what I was looking for. So use a very gentle flame and then work slowly. Just wait for that solder to just kind of go beyond balling up. It's got to stick to the link, but not flood all over it. That's gone too far. So now we're back on this piece. I haven't put this in the acid or anything, so it's probably worth just touching with the buff stick a little bit. And also we need to accurately put it opposite that one. I think I can do it easily just by eye, but sometimes some links, where especially with a bit of width to them, it's difficult to get it right in the middle of the width, and also directly opposite the other side. So in that time I will use, I can't find one, but yeah, say that was a ball phrase. I'd use a tiny ball phrase, and then I can really look at it from the side, put a tiny little mark on it, or I can't remember now, I've done this for a year. Yeah, look at it from the side, put a little sort of dot in it or some sort of mark, and then look at it straight down on it, and then make sure marking it directly across the width. And that gives you a little guide to put your ball phrase in. And then that ball phrase is really helpful when you're holding your link. It kind of just clicks into position, and then you know the solder's just going to flood exactly where you want it to, in a nice clean little dip. And then that's how I position them really accurately, and that's a really quick way to work and get real accurate results. Because if you start trying to hold that and you have to guess and you have to move it, and then it's not quite right, you've got to move it again, it's you're working very awkwardly. You sort of go in what I call backwards and forwards, and trying to correct your mistakes as you move along. It's not a good way to make jewellery. So take the time to make a little mark exactly where you want the link to go when you're working on little collets that are put into a chain. But for this, I'm just gonna freestyle it and try and put it in the correct position just by eye. So I'm just going to hold that link like that, put that in put in that one. Nope. Come on, Chris, here we go. These tweezers hold better in this slot. So yeah, tweezers are at an angle, but I want that link directly at the bottom, so I know that this one's got to go directly on top. That's how I'm doing this. Do a bit of fluxaroonie. I haven't taken these out of these tweezers that it was soldered in, so that's still in position, basically ready to go. Flux that one, flux that one. If you're working in gold, anything that you suspect may be rhodium plated, you can flux along the chain a little bit. I know it makes it more likely that the solder in the other links will flow, but it also makes it more likely that you won't damage the plating and keep the polish and the shine on it after it's been heated. So I think it's worth just fluxing down the links a little bit. So a little trial run, making sure I can actually physically hold it in position where I want it to. And I've got to light this one-handed, unfortunately. Okay, this is literally just soldered. I haven't been in the acid or no adjustments, still hot, tweezers are hot, still hot. You're gonna take my words for that. So yeah, look, see, that's flat. The link's laying flat. Flat one, this is flat, that next one is flat. And then really, that should follow all the way to the other end if you've got a great attention to detail. A customer will never know that, but yeah, it's nice if you can just have everything perfect. Right, doing this video is making me realise like how much stuff I've learned over the years. I've got to put on video. It's quite daunting. Like, I'll be doing new stuff on this channel for quite a few years, believe me. Right, I was just about to put it in the acid, yeah. Acid can make metal, like polished metal, go a bit dull. So do the chain up. Do the chain up, and then have your soldered piece right at the bottom, and only have that soldered piece in the acid. So all this is going on the outside of the pot. So just that tiny bit is in the acid, and then definitely that's the only piece that will need polishing. So if I chuck that whole thing in, there's a chance, or if I just chuck loads of it in, there's a chance everything that's in the acid will go a bit dull, and then you're fighting a losing battle to make it all polished up and nicely finished like it came from the factory, which once that plating goes, or you've damaged the plating, is kind of impossible. Okay, so I've just pulled this out of the acid. So the idea is a customer can wear it full length, or if they got like a short, like little diamond stud pendant or something, or if they got a pendant they want to put on the chain, it's a little bit longer, hangs down a bit lower, they might want to have a shorter chain, so they've got the option of wearing a bit shorter. But yes, that will dangle down the back of their neck. So it's important, that's quite a nice piece as well. My advice for doing these is use a very gentle flame and as little heat as possible to get that to solder. Maybe a small sharp flame, but doesn't have a lot of pressure, not too hot. Because if you use too much heat, you may solder your link onto the ring very well, but there's a chance the solder join of the links behind where you were holding it may have like flooded or dried out and they come loose. So when you pull out the acid, it looks fine, but then you like sort of dry it with a towel and it just pulls apart because you ballsed up the solder joins, the links behind it. Happened to me quite a few times. Or even worse than that, everything's fine, out the acid, dried it, yeah, great. Go to polish it, polishing, and it just comes apart. So then you go right back, like you've got ultrasonic clean it and then go right back to the start and get soldering again. So yeah, that might happen to you. So you've got to be really careful with the amount of heat you're using. And I am sure, on silver with this big chunky flame, I've got the skill to get away with it and make it work, but that flame is too big, too wide really for that type of link. So I'm sure if I went to polish that, this chain will come apart. Maybe I'll just pull it now. Like if I pull this, I'm sure there's going to be hardly anything to get that to break. But there you go. And there it is. Look, this is the danger. Like your solder join on the ring is fine, but it's the one behind it. Always like if that solder join, look, I bet it's just opened up gently. There you go. Like the join dries out or does something, just floods and doesn't quite, like after it goes hard again, it's not joined up properly. So any like sort of tension on it just pulls it open. So yeah, you've got to be careful of that because that's literally a start again job. And if you've got like links, if you're doing collets on a chain and they've got to be like say 27 links in between each other, if that happens, you've then got to find one link and add one link in next to it. If you haven't got that one, if that one went missing on the polishing motor or something. So yeah, you can get into trouble doing these, so you've got to be careful. So yeah, my good advice is just to take your time with the soldering, flux them up to protect the plating and yeah, be careful the amount of heat you're using, because like what happened on this one could happen on yours. And silver is very likely to happen, but 9 karat gold, 18 karat, whatever, much easier to do a good job. But silver is hard because silver solder always melts very easily. If you're learning jewellery from this YouTube channel with the hope of being an employed jeweller, you're definitely going to get asked to do chain repairs really quickly. So yeah, I recommend the way I do it, because I tried teaching other people just couldn't do chains, didn't like it, so all chain jobs got like thrown at me, because I don't mind working with them. It's very fiddly, but once you can do it, as always, the jobs you hate doing or other people hate doing, when you actually learn a way to do it, they become the most satisfying, and it's nice to have a specific technique to actually get on with stuff. Right, new patrons. I got 2 new patrons recently. Vera Maya, who's contributed a lot to the channel just from commenting and liking and being very positive about my videos. So that's really great. Like, I'm glad she became a patron, because she was like on the radar as a diamond mounter fan anyway. So that's great. Thank you, Vera. And we got Matthew Andrew Budge, who's already had a video made on one of his comments, so he's certainly get his money worth. He's a classic patron. So yeah, Matthew Andrew Budge, thanks for becoming a patron. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope you liked the video that I made as a reply to one of your comments. Thank you for the inspiration for a new video. That was cool. Yeah, welcome aboard. Welcome to the family. Cool, thank you guys. Yeah, I was really appreciating that. I really feel like the channel's growing. Also, we are approaching 1,000 subscribers. Like, as I speak, it is 998 subscribers. Let me tell you exactly. No, come on. Here we go. Push that. 1,000 subscribers. Sorry, already 1,000 subscribers. There we go. If you can see that. Thank you. This is great. I actually feel like I've got a bit of an audience now. I'm going to start doing my hair and brushing my teeth before I film the next video. I already said right at the start when I made this channel, but when I get to 10,000 subscribers, I'm really going to feel like I've made a difference on, or have the ability to make a difference on, how people are making jewellery. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, I will put a link in the description, and if you click that and become a patron, I will be super grateful when you're really contributing to the channel and helping it grow. Because my dream is, in the future, there'll be so many videos, and I'll have everything organised in playlists, and it'll be a real kind of go-to place for jewelers or people looking to learn, or people just looking to see how things are done. Yeah, it'd be a real go-to place on the internet for researching like how to do stuff, or get ideas for designs, and like finding new techniques, or learning about how tools are used, and I don't know, just anything to do with jewellery. Over the years there'll be more and more stuff, so if I get it organised into playlists, it'll be really convenient for people to find like specifically how a jeweller would make a 3-stone ring and stuff, because you know, people just want to have a go at making jewellery themselves, so they just want to see how it's done. So the channel will just be an instantly obvious place to go to find that kind of information. So that's my dream. I want to build it up to something like an actual archive of jewellery making techniques, like a reference library. That'd be great. So if you'll become a patron, you're helping that happen. So if you're new to me, thanks very much for watching. I hope you liked the video. Hopefully you learned something, or just found it interesting, or whatever. Plenty more videos like this coming up soon. Like, this was really specifically what I've learned works very well for me. So you might not do exactly what I'm doing, but it's good for you to see how I do it, because this works for me 100% of the time. So I recommend. It's a good way to work with fine chains. Yeah, hit like, subscribe, share, notification bell and all that, and see you next time for more diamond mounting. Bye bye.